Interesting experience this week because the Kumbh Mela is going on in India, and because they were opening a new temple in Navi Mumbai. I was watching a lot of that on YouTube, and the algorithm in YouTube works in such a way that if you're searching for particular content, they automatically bring up a whole bunch of other things along that same theme. So a lot of Vishnu worship in South India, the different Venkateswaram, Rangaswamy, uh, Abhisheks and different pujas came up. So I was watching those. And I was on Padayatra when it went throughout South India. And the worship in South India is very Vishnu oriented. And it's a very subtle difference between Krishna worship and Vishnu worship, in that the worship of Krishna in Vrindavan, as expressed and instructed and revealed in the Goswami's books by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is worship with Krishna is much more intimate. It's much more friendly. So coming into this chapter today, chapter 18, most of the chapter itself deals with the Vrindavan atmosphere and the relationship between the boys and the way they relate with one another. So let us dive into that nectar. And again, I'm very much appreciative of Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya, this parampara of Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya.
Did you want to start?
Yes. Well, this is January 2025, lessons 3 and 4. Chapter 18, the killing of the demon, Pralambasura. No, I don't have to start, Sami. You can have somebody read.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. Nice to see you here. This is a wonderful glorification of Lord Balaram. So, Acharyaji, would you like to begin?
Yes, thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:18, text 1 and 2, Sarartha Darshini. A quick question. In the reading at the Sadhu Sangha online, it started with the Krishna book first, but now we're doing the Sarartha Darshini first, right?
Yes. What we've done, just as a reminder, and for those that are new, in the online course materials, we present Krishna book, and in the recordings, audio recordings, we present the Krishna book version first, and then the Sarartha Darshini of the corresponding verses. But we found when we first started doing the Zooms, and after Srila Prabhupada finished his purports after chapter 13, that then switching them during this Zoom review and having the Sarartha Darshini verses from Srimad Bhagavatam first, and then Krishna book as the corresponding verses, it really helped to expand it. So, and
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just double checking because I just reread it a few minutes ago.
I see.
Okay. 10:18, text 1 and 2, Sarartha Darshini. Shukadev Goswami said, surrounded by his blissful companions who constantly chanted his glories, Sri Krishna then entered the village of Vraja, which was decorated with herds of cows. While Krishna and Balaram were thus enjoying life in Vrindavan in the guise of ordinary cowherd boys, the summer season gradually appeared. This season is not very pleasing to embodied souls. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Krishna's herding cows was just a pretense for going to the forest and playing with his cowherd boyfriends. By cheating materialistic men with this pretense, Krishna and Balaram actually played with their personal gopis. In Ananda Vrindavan Champu, Kavi Karnapur describes that Balaram had separate gopis from Krishna. This will also be described later in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Just a note too, thank you for including the Ananda Vrindavan Champu's descriptions that you posted.
Yeah, that's a favorite book. It has a lot of
oh yes, definitely.
It's great. It's like a 10th canto summary, but really nice.
So I think you can read another one too, Acharya.
Yeah.
Okay. Text 3 through 6, Sarartha Darshini. Nevertheless, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead was personally staying in Vrindavan, along with Balaram, summer manifested the qualities of spring. Such are the features of the land of Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, the loud sound of waterfalls covered the cricket's noise, and clusters of trees constantly moistened by spray from those waterfalls beautified the entire area. The wind wafting over the waves of the lakes and flowing rivers carried away the pollen of many varieties of lotuses and water lilies, and then cooled the entire Vrindavan area. Thus, the residents there did not suffer from the heat generated by the blazing summer sun and seasonal forest fires. Indeed, Vrindavan was abundant with fresh green grass. With their flowing waves, the deep rivers drenched their banks, making them damp and muddy. Thus, the rays of the sun, which were as fierce as poison, could not evaporate the earth's sap or parch its green grass. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. These verses describe how Vrindavan manifested the features of spring even during the summer season.
Thank you.
Sama, the next
Yeah.
section from Krishna book talks about the same thing. Do you want to have Acharya continue reading or someone else?
Well, okay, you can just continue. There's so many here today.
Okay, you're sure that's a lot for one person to read. Okay, Krishna book. From Srimad Bhagavatam 10:18, 1 through 6. While Krishna and Balaram were enjoying life in Vrindavan, in the midst of the cowherd boys and girls, the season gradually changed to summer. The summer season in India is not very much welcomed because of the excessive heat, but in Vrindavan, everyone was pleased because summer there appeared just like spring. This was possible only because Lord Krishna and Balaram, who are the controllers even of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, were residing there. In Vrindavan, there are many falls which are always pouring water, and the sound is so sweet that it covers the sounds of the crickets. And because water flows all over, the forest always looks very green and beautiful. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were never disturbed by the scorching heat of the sun or the high summer temperatures. The lakes of Vrindavan are surrounded by green grasses, and various kinds of lotus flowers bloom there, such as the Kalhara Kanjotpala. And the air blowing in Vrindavan carries the aromatic pollen of those lotus flowers. When the particles of water from the waves of the Yamuna, the lakes, and the waterfalls touched the bodies of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they automatically felt a cooling effect. Therefore, they were practically undisturbed by the summer season. Vrindavan is such a nice place. Flowers are always blooming, and there are even various kinds of decorated deer. Birds are chirping, peacocks are crowing and dancing, and bees are humming. The cuckoos there sing nicely in 5 kinds of tunes.
Okay, thank you, Acharya. I have one question for you. And for anyone, has any one of us been to Vrindavan recently? We were there last year.
Not
and we
recently.
lived there. Well, we lived there for many years, and I can't remember the Vrindavan summer the way it's being described in these verses. Can you explain why? Is it my material vision, or why is that not being manifest at this time?
I've been there in the summer, and I thought it was like very, very intense. The heat,
Very
I thought it
intense.
was very intense. The heat.
Yeah.
In fact, one time I was there in the summer and I had to run away, and me and my wife flew away to Mauritius for a couple of months because the summer was just too much for us.
We went to the Himalayas. It was very, very difficult. So why is that? Prabhupada talks so much about how wonderful Vrindavan is, especially in the summer months, and no one is affected by the heat. Why is
Well,
that?
yeah, I really love that because in at least in Krishna's time and with Krishna's presence, when the spiritual Vrindavan was fully manifested and not necessarily hidden from our vision like it is now, everything was just arranged so beautifully and so
Yeah, there you
perfectly
go.
for
Okay.
Krishna's pastimes and the enjoyment of Krishna and his devotees. And I love that because, this summer heat is so much, but no one felt the least bit bothered by it. It was just all beautiful, all
Wow.
comfortable, all nice.
So what do you think? If everybody in the world would be Krishna conscious, would the weather be nice? No more
Well,
fires in LA?
I wouldn't bet on it, but who knows?
Okay.
This
Patsy, do you
material
want?
world is always going to have its difficulties.
Right. That's true. It would be nice. But this
Yes.
is this is the power of Krishna
The
and
answer to
Balaram.
your question was right here.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Only because Lord Krishna and Balaram, who are the controllers of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, were residing there. That's why
Right.
it's no longer manifest. It's totally different. If you look at pictures, photographs, I mean, even time, that was Dwapara Yuga. If you look at pictures, there are famous ones in National Geographic and things like that of glaciers, even from the early 1900s to today, the early 2000s, that 100 years, you see huge changes in
Mm,
nature. What to speak of Los Angeles a month ago and a Los Angeles today, with all the buildings and everything that's been burnt. So, with what we're reading about is actually one of the features that made it so different because the Supreme
mm,
Personality of Godhead was personally present on this planet. The whole place was different because of his
right.
presence.
Okay, but then one small question before we move on. Um, it is said, and we know that if one has spiritual vision, he can see Krishna and Balaram walking in Vrindavan, and his vision is completely different than if someone with material vision would behold Vrindavan today with the buildings and the cars and the Burma paved road, and you know, there's a isn't there a difference? Isn't Krishna and Balaram, aren't they still present, but they've removed themselves from the material vision?
Yes, they're in the aprakrita lila.
Aprakrita,
It's
aprakrita,
unmanifest. But
unmanifest.
Prabhupada also gives the example when somebody leaves their body, we know through scripture what happened, but the material senses cannot perceive spirit,
Mm,
so we don't see it.
Oh, right.
Atasya Krishna Namadi Nabhavid Grayam Indrai. So similarly, our material senses cannot perceive the spiritual environment, the spiritual
Right.
dimension. It may be present there because that's Krishna's eternal abode, but we have to have, just like Krishna gave Arjuna special vision to see the universal form, one would need to be benedicted in order to see that.
mm.
And we're trying to become benedicted by performing the Yuga Dharma. Actually, it is said that by chanting the holy name, one becomes purified. So next time I go to Vrindavan, I have to look behind every tree, see if I can see Krishna there. Bhaja, did you want to say something?
You're muted, Prabhu.
Bhaja, you're muted. Bhadraji, unmute yourself. He's not listening. Bhadra, unmute.
Okay, can you see me?
Yeah,
We
I
can
can
see
see you
you.
and
We
hear
couldn't
you.
hear you.
Okay,
Now we can.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I mean, Dhruv Maharaj Prabhu made a very good point. It's question of consciousness, isn't it? I mean, Vrindavan is a house of Krishna. Pastimes are going on at present, but it's our consciousness is not changed. We are still material consciousness, and that's why we are affected by the heat and cold and rain and all this. We are affected. I mean, There are great personalities who are living there, and their consciousness is complete in Vrindavan. Their consciousness is completely spiritual, and they are not affected by these things, isn't it? We are sadhaka, we are affected by. I'm affected by this.
Yeah.
Is
That
that
was
clear
that
understanding?
was the conclusion.
Okay.
Without spiritual vision, we can't see Krishna. And, someone who's on the transcendental platform is not affected by heat and cold and happiness and distress.
Right.
Right?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, let's go on. Tisha, would you like to read? Thank you, Acharya. Tisha ji, my
Thank
sweetie.
Hi, everybody. Haribo. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 16, 9 through 11, Sarata Darshani. Flowers beautifully decorated the forests of Vrindavan, and many varieties of animals and birds filled it with sound. The peacocks and bees sang, and the cuckoos and cranes cooed. Intending to engage in pastimes, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, accompanied by Lord Balaram and surrounded by the cowherd boys and the cows, entered the forests of Vrindavan as he played his flute. Decorating themselves with newly grown leaves, along with peacock feathers, garlands, clusters of flower buds, and colored minerals, Balaram, Krishna, and their cowherd friends danced, wrestled, and sang. As Krishna danced, some of the boys accompanied him by singing, and others by playing flutes, hand cymbals, and buffalo horns, while still others praised his dancing. O king, demigods disguised themselves as members of the cowherd community, and just as dramatic dancers praised another dancer, worshipped Krishna and Balaram, who were also appearing as cowherd boys. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur. If the demigods had appeared in their natural forms, the cowherd boys would have recognized them and worshipped them. Therefore, the demigods came as cowherd boys like Krishna and Balaram. In this way, Shiva, Narada, and other demigods disguised themselves as cowherd boys to taste the ecstasy of Krishna's pastimes. The phrase Gopala Rupinau means that Krishna and Balaram eternally have the forms of cowherd boys.
Thank you. I want you to continue reading, but I just was, everybody notice before we go on, that one last part of the purport, the phrase Gopala Rupino means that Krishna and Balaram eternally have the form of cowherd boys. That struck me wonderfully. Anyway, everyone think about that for a minute. It's wonderful. Go on reading now. Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 18, 12 through 14 from the Sarata Darshani. Krishna and Balaram played with their cowherd boyfriends by whirling about, leaping, hurling, slapping, and fighting. Sometimes Krishna and Balaram would pull the hair of the other boys' heads. While the other boys were dancing, O king, Krishna and Balaram would sometimes accompany them with song and instrumental music. And sometimes the two lords would praise the boys, saying, "Very good, very good." Sometimes the cowherd boys would play with bilva or kumbha fruits, and sometimes with handfuls of amalaka fruits. At other times, they would play the games of trying to touch one another or of trying to identify somebody while one is blindfolded. And sometimes they would imitate animals and birds. It sounds like tag and hide and go seek.
Right. Eternal games. These are the eternal games of the living entity. Even Krishna is playing them, and they come from Krishna. Very good. Go on.
Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur. The boys would throw bilva, kumbha, or amalaka fruits into the air and then throw other fruits to try to hit them. Netra bandha, or bound eyes, indicates a game in which a blindfolded boy would have to identify a friend simply by feeling the boy's hands over his blindfolded eyes. In all their games, the boys put up wagers for the winner, such as flutes or walking sticks. Sometimes they imitated the various fighting methods of the forest animals, and at other times they would chirp like birds.
Okay. Just read the next one too. That's what I'm gonna have you read the next one because this completely has to do with the same verses.
Krishna from the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:18, verses 10 through 14. Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure, blowing his flute, accompanied by his elder brother Balaram and other cowherd boys and cows, entered the beautiful forest of Vrindavan to enjoy the atmosphere. They walked into the midst of newly grown leaves of trees whose flowers resembled peacock feathers. They were garlanded by those flowers and decorated with saffron chalk. Sometimes they were dancing and singing, and sometimes wrestling with one another. While Krishna danced, some of the cowherd boys sang, and others played on flutes. Some bugled on buffalo horns or clapped their hands, praising Krishna. Dear brother, you are dancing very nicely. Actually, all these boys were demigods descended from higher planets to assist Krishna in his pastimes. Excuse me. The demigods, garbed in the dress of the cowherd boys, were encouraging Krishna in his dancing, just as one artist encourages another with praise.
Okay, so this is very interesting. What do you think is very interesting about this, Tisha? How similar or familiar this seems. What do you think about that?
Well, when I was thinking about it, I know I don't always think in the right way, but just how they used everything in nature to play their games. There wasn't, some plastic toy from Walmart or a ball or something. It was just everything in nature. They imitated the animals. They threw things in the air and tried to break it with something else, different fruits. I just thought it was so fascinating that everything was just from Vrindavan. Nothing was brought in. It was just all of them and nature.
Beautiful
Okay.
point.
Yeah. Well, what about, just a second, Acharya, what about the familiarity of the way Krishna was relating to his friends? And if you think of how children actually, how we've all played, it's very familiar. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good point what you're saying, just that it's unfathomable that you are playing childhood games with the Lord of the universe. It's just unbelievable. How could you even imagine that those cowherd boys were in the presence of Krishna and just having regular, ordinary, association games and fun and playing and lightheartedness. It's incredible.
Lightheartedness, child play. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Acharya? And then Bhadra after Acharya.
Yeah. Imitating Krishna, of course, that's something that has to be, be understood carefully. But sociologists and people who study child development are actually realizing more and more the importance of, for ordinary, just mundane children, the importance of this independent play away from adults, including roughhousing and competition and fighting and playing and cooperating, how important it is actually just for ordinary child, mental development and growing into adulthood, and how now we have, arranged play dates and competition and fighting are forbidden or smashed down is not necessarily the healthiest thing for the growth of children. So, Krishna and Balaram were playing in that very natural way, and that's something that, to some degree can be imitated, maybe.
Yeah, well, just before Bhadra, I remember when my daughter was like 3, and she used to play this game. She would go into the closet and dress up like one of this Radharani or Gopi or someone, and she would come out, and she said, "Kids, you know who I am?" She would say, "You could touch my feet if you." That she loved this game.
Yeah.
I think she's still playing it. No, no, don't tell her I said that. No, but she's been playing Krishna. This is what the children did, And she said, I'm Radharani, I'll bless you. So this is all the children when they were growing up in this movement have played games, and even Lord Nityananda would play these games about Ramachandra. And one time Lord Nityananda fainted, and they had to bring, he was Lakshman. They had to go and they get that magic herb that would bring him back. The Sanyapani or something. This is natural for children to play games and to enact Krishna's pastimes. Even Lord Chaitanya himself enacted Krishna's pastime. So this is a very healthy way, very good, very healthy way for us. That's why we put on plays. Yes.
And it was, I guess it's like 24, 25 years ago now. My son spent 1 year in the Vrindavan Gurukul and playing ball and catch and dodgeball with bell fruits was a regular thing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Bhaja?
Yeah, please correct me. When they talk about demigods, these demigods are not from here. Are they from the spiritual world? Is that right?
I was asking that too.
Pati, you wanted
Somebody else
ask?
said something. Swaga, did you say something?
She said she wanted to ask that too.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
No,
because that stood out for me. That the demigods came from he said from the heavenly planets.
Yeah, he did. So that's the
and
answer.
so that stood out for me. Are they transcendental? Are the demigods transcendental?
The
They're not
demigods who was go on, Pati.
they're not transcendental, but they sure were at that point.
Right. They came and they saw Krishna. I'm going down there, and they didn't want to be demigods. They wanted to be cowherd boys and play with Krishna, and that would be the first choice of anyone, even in their highfalutin demigod position. You know what I mean?
Right.
So at that point, as my husband said, they were transcendental, playing with Krishna, the forest, the cowherd boy.
Yeah.
Bhaja?
But isn't there a demigods in spiritual in the Krishna's pastime from the spiritual world?
Didn't say anything like that, Bhaja. It actually said in the purport that if they had shown their original forms, then the one before that, where was that?
They would lose the proper relationship of service. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's right. Yeah.
I understand that, but at the same time, when Krishna is killing some demons, then the demigods are showering flowers from the sky.
Well, there's a lot of demigods.
Like that.
If the demigods had appeared in their natural forms, the cowherd boys would have recognized them and worshipped them. Therefore, the demigods came, and it also said from the heavenly planets. Somebody else mentioned that.
They wanted to partake in the pastimes of Krishna, so they came as cowherd boys.
Yeah, I think if they were spiritual demigods, certainly one of the commentators would have mentioned that.
I see.
I would think.
Okay.
Good. Very good.
And here Prabhupada again says,
actually, all these boys were demigods, descended from the higher planets to assist Krishna in his pastimes. The demigods garbed in the dress of the cowherd boys and were encouraging Krishna. So before they were demigods, that's a whole different discussion. So let's just go on with what is being presented here at this time.
right.
Okay. So let's go on reading. And Madhurya Leela, are you there? Let's give her a chance to get back. Madhurya. I think she's... Okay, we're waiting for Madhurya.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know.
you
Sometimes
were
it takes a
there.
while to unmute.
Okay, darling. You want to read?
Sure. Okay. Oops.
Picture, I just...
Beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 18, 15 to 16. Sharata Darshini. They would sometimes jump around like frogs, sometimes play various jokes, sometimes ride in swings, and sometimes imitate monarchs. In this way, Krishna and Balaram played all sorts of well-known games as they wandered among the rivers, hills, valleys, bushes, trees, and lakes of Vrindavan. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The word Nripya Jeshtaya, acting like a king, refers to the following pastime. To cross the Jamuna at certain places in Vrindavan, people would have to pay a tax. Sometimes Krishna and his friends would assemble in his area and prevent the Brajagopis from crossing the river, insisting that they had to first pay a tax. Such pastimes were surcharged with joking and laughter. I had a beautiful print of this painting in my house, but I have to give it away. It was really beautiful.
I think the next part from Krishna book is similar. Do you want her to continue reading?
Yeah, go on reading.
Well, okay. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 10:18, 15 to 16 from Krishna book. Up to that time, neither Balaram nor Krishna had undergone the hair cutting ceremony. Therefore, the hair was clustered like crows' feathers. They were always playing hide and seek with their boy friends or jumping and fighting with one another. Sometimes, while his friends were chanting and dancing, Krishna would praise them. My dear friends, you are dancing and singing very nicely. The boys played at catching ball and bell-shaped fruit and round gamalaki. They played blind man's bluff, challenging and touching one another. Sometimes they imitated the forest deer and various kinds of birds. They joked with one another by imitating croaking frogs, and they enjoyed swinging underneath the trees. Sometimes they would play like a king and his subjects among themselves. In this way, Balaram and Krishna, along with all their friends, played all kinds of sports and enjoyed the soothing atmosphere of Vrindavan, full of rivers, lakes, rivulets, vine trees, and excellent fruits and flowers.
Wow. So again, we see how they're playing like ordinary children. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? How the Lord, the Supreme Personality of God, in charge of everything comes from him. He's playing like a little boy.
I forgot who it was that said that, maybe it's Prabhupada, that you never see or maybe of some, anyway, that you never see pictures of Krishna where he's working. He's always playing and having fun.
Yeah.
So that's why he's a Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he doesn't have to do anything. You can just enjoy, and his energies take care of everything. So yeah, I mean, that's what he likes to do. This is the most nectarian thing to play, to interact with his devotees.
The interesting thing also that I just heard Prabhupada say in a lecture this morning, that in the spiritual world, when you go there, it's not that you have to work. Nobody's working there, so you're not the only, Krishna's not the only one. No one has to worry about their finances or their, right. Even it said that the queens in Dwarka, there's no dust, but they walk around dusting, so, we got a lot of people here. Okay. So anything else you want to say, Madhurya, about this interesting thing, how Krishna is playing like an ordinary boy?
Well, the conversation we were having earlier about Vrindavan doesn't look the way it does. But if you go outside of Vrindavan these days, say to Govardhan, or Barsana, the out, like when you go on Parikram, the Braj Mandal, it's still like Vrindavan, like it's described in the books.
Right.
And, people have vision and they can see. It's very mystical, especially in the evenings and early mornings, nights. But it's still there if you want to see.
It is the Dham. It is the Dham, the place of Krishna's eternal pastime.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thakur Murari, would you like to say something? Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, are they any better?
Okay, so far so good. Oh, there I am again listening to my echo. All right, go on. Don't worry.
So I'm just quickly, I remember when we were at school, we had a call recess. Said it was just 15 minutes of, play away from class time, recess. And it was amazing number of things that games we could play during the 15 minutes. So I'm just here listening to the various games that Krishna and the code boys were playing. I'm saying, these really generative, because we wonder, how did we, get to know some of the games? So I'm saying that yes, it's important, and as Acharya said, it's important for the children to have the playtime during those early years. Yes, yeah. So
Very
yeah,
good.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's good. See, it seems like that's the natural way to live. Hare Krishna. Acharya.
I'm just guessing that the Krishna book reference to bell-shaped fruits, Bell, is an early and perhaps inexperienced typist mistaking bell fruits for bell-shaped fruits. Because bell-shaped fruits doesn't make that much sense. But bell fruits is what the Bhagavatam is actually talking about.
Which is actually a round fruit rather
Right.
than a bell-shaped fruit.
Right.
Yeah, probably.
So, this was back in 1970, and you wouldn't expect a Western-born devotee to know what bell fruits are at that particular time. So
Good point.
I'm guessing that it somehow
No more
got
speculation.
You know me,
It's a
I
good
can't
one.
help it.
Another point before we go on that we haven't discussed that's kind of underlying this whole description is the love in Sakyarasa between friends that's developing. One of the themes in Krishna's pastimes is that he appeared as a baby at first, and we read about those pastimes, the Damodar Lila, the Trinavarta demon, the Shakatasura. Then they moved to Tattikar and the Vrindavan area. That's where he's living now. And all these friends, all the parents of his boyfriends and everything, the whole village is becoming more and more mature and developed in their love of Krishna, although they're Nitya Siddha associates, just by the nature of these human-like pastimes, rather than in the spiritual world where it's Navayovanam Cha is the eternal form of the Lord. This is very wonderful descriptions of childhood and growing together. And now it will switch to the pastimes of Pralambasura, trying to act like he's one of them.
Oh boy. Okay, so let's go on reading. Swargaji, would you like to read?
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, I have to change the.
Yeah.
You guys can't see it. I can.
Okay. Sarata Dashini, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:18, 17:18. While Ram, Krishna, and their cowherd friends were thus tending the cows in that Vrindavan forest, the demon, Pralamba, entered their midst. He had assumed the form of a cowherd boy with the intention of kidnapping Krishna and Balaram. Since the Supreme Lord Krishna, who had appeared in the Dashaha dynasty, sees everything, he understood who the demon was. Still, the Lord pretended to accept the demon as a friend, while at the same time seriously considering how to kill him. Vishvanatha Chakravarti Thakur, having described sweet human pastimes which hid their powers, Shukadev Goswami now describes an extraordinary pastime showing Balaram's power. Balaram took the form of one cowherd who, Pralamba took the form of one cowherd who was absent that day. In order to give Balaram fame, I will have Balaram mount the demon's shoulders. Balaram will then kill him. He can be on my side and I will lose. Then he will have to carry Balaram. Since Krishna thought in this way, so the phrase Sarva Darshana supports this meaning. The Lord knows everything done in the past and everything in the future. Thus, he accepted the stranger among them as a friend. If he became friends with Balaram, he would not be able to carry Balaram.
Okay, so before we go on, this is a very important section. So I just wanted you to speak something about. But you want to put it back to the words, to the text. The purport. Two things are in the purport that are really wonderful about how Krishna is enacting sweet pastimes that human beings enact, and the other one is this whole rasa and the thoughts of Krishna and how he's empowering Balaram, or he's allowing this whole thing to happen. So why don't you expand upon that, Swargaji, if you could?
Yeah, for me, it falls within the category of the inconceivable potency of Krishna, because here he is being just acting like a cowherd boy, like an ordinary human, but then okay, so it's like a normal, so-called normal day in Vrindavan, and then Palamba shows up as a just another kid, and but Krishna knows, and so he orchestrates before he even manifests it. Before it even manifests, he's already planned it out. It's already there. That's inconceivable. Yeah. But or maybe it's I mean, what kind of potency is that?
Yeah, that's exactly the potency, the Chintya Shakti, isn't it, Pati? The inconceivable potency of the Lord.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
all-knowing, omniscient.
Yeah. This is just
past, present, and future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what? Okay, you want to put it back to the words, Pati, for a moment, so she can see. Okay. So concentrate on this last section there. As far out as you're right, Swarga. Krishna's going through this whole orchestration of the events to have the outcome that he wants.
Yeah, right. Just because see, okay, so if he's on, then Balaram can kill, can kill him.
Yeah. Let me ask you one question. Is that, are we to understand that this is how Krishna is working in our own lives? He's working in our own, he's orchestrating events that we don't understand, but to bring us to a certain point. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was important.
Absolutely. Just as a little bit of a side on this, like this particular demon Palamba, what is the quality that he's portraying for us?
Good. Pati, why don't you answer her that? The qualities that Palamba is signifying that we have to work on.
Yes, it was. We read it this morning. What it is, it's someone who performs bhakti. The anartha that he represents is someone who is performing bhakti, but in their heart, they're desiring wealth, adoration from others. They want to be worshipped. So in the same way, Palambasura has put on the garb of a cowherd boy, like he's one of them, and he's playing amongst everyone. But Krishna knows his intentions. He knows who he is and what he is. So therefore, that's an anartha that becomes lessened by meditating on this pastime, because ultimately it's also interesting that Krishna has Balaram kill him. And there's that section that was discussed in the forums about the two different types of demons. Some are killed by Krishna, some are killed by Balaram. The ones that are killed by Balaram require some extra attention to that anartha to be rooted out by the devotee himself or herself. There's work to be done. So that false presentation has to be rooted out by the devotee. You can't fake it. It's not gonna. It will be killed.
So let's go on, because at the last slide that's included here is, of course, part of one of the charts that our beloved Premananda has created, and it lists the anartas, the ones that we have to become
Right,
aware
right.
of.
I was only able to access the first one,
Oh, if you if you pull down
Putana.
on the right, if you pull down on the right hand side of that PDF file, it's a whole chart. Yeah, it's not just
Oh, okay,
one.
because I was only able to get Putana, and I couldn't figure it out. So
I
oh,
think
good.
if you click on it, Swarga, and then on the right hand side, look for a sidebar and pull it down. And
Okay.
there's many. This is the one that's Palumbasura.
Thank you.
Lust for women, greed, desire for worship, and position.
In position.
Okay, that's what we got to work on ourselves. That's what
Right.
it says.
One thing he
Okay.
didn't put in this chart was that it represents a person who's performing bhakti with these in their heart.
Cheating.
Yes.
And as Faye just wrote, hypocrisy.
Uh-huh.
That's a good one. All right, let's go on with the next slide. And thank you so much, Swargaji. Nanda, would you like to read? Let's see if Nanda will.
Yeah, am I unmuted already?
Yes.
You are.
Sorry, I didn't realize I've been unmuted the whole time. Okay, Sarartha Darshini, Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 18th chapter, verses 19 to 22. Krishna, who knows all sports and games, then called together the cowherd boys and spoke as follows. Hey, cowherd boys, let's play now. We'll divide ourselves into 2 even teams. The cowherd boys chose Krishna and Balaram as the leaders of the 2 parties. Some of the boys were on Krishna's side and the others joined Balaram. The boys played various games involving carriers and passengers. In these games, the winners would climb upon the backs of the losers who would have to carry them, thus carrying and being carried by one another, and at the same time tending the cows. The boys followed Krishna to a banyan tree known as Bandiraka. Commentary. Bandiraka means the tree called Bandira, or a banyan tree by name, but actually it was a desire tree. Harivamsa describes the banyan tree. They saw that best of all trees, which had many long branches. With its dense covering of leaves, it resembled a cloud sitting on the earth. Its form was so large that it appeared like a mountain covering half the sky. Many birds in blue and various colors frequented that great tree, whose profuse fruits and leaves made it seem like a cloud accompanied by a rainbow, or like a house decorated with creepers and flowers. It spread its broad roots downward and carried upon itself the sanctified clouds. That banyan tree was like the lordly master of all other trees in the vicinity, as it performed the all-auspicious functions of warding off the rain and the heat of the sun. Such was the appearance of that banyan tree known as Bandira, which seemed just like the peak of a great mountain.
Very good. Go on to the next slide.
Once, while they were engaged in their transcendental pastimes, the great demon named Pralambasura entered their company, desiring to kidnap both Balaram and Krishna. Although Krishna was playing the part of a cowherd boy, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could understand everything, past, present, and future. So when Pralambasura entered their company, Krishna began to think how to kill the demon. But externally, he received him as a friend. Oh, my dear friend, he said, it is very good that you have come to take part in our pastimes. Krishna then called all his friends and ordered them, now we shall play in pairs. We shall challenge one another in pairs. With this proposal, all the boys assembled together. Some of them took the side of Krishna, and some of them took the side of Balaram, and they arranged to play in duel.
Okay, so this is the setup, but what do you see in this, Nandaji? What can you tell us about this setup?
Just as I was reading it just now, that sentence, is the audio that I have in the background, is that disturbing everybody?
No
Okay.
one hears it.
All right. So just now, that one paragraph where it said, or say sentence that said that Krishna saw him as an enemy. He knew he was a demon, but then he treated him as a friend. It just went to my mind how we were just talking about hypocrisy. But for Krishna, it's not hypocrisy because he's all knowing. For us,
Oh, yeah.
for us, it's hypocrisy because we don't know everything, but we want to present ourselves as if we know everything. But Krishna, he did exactly the same scenario, acted,
Oh, that's very good.
That's good. That's good.
but because he's all knowing, it was the truth. He acted in an absolute way. It
That's
just,
right.
wow.
It's like the butter thief. He's a thief. He's a thief. Krishna's a thief. You know, all these things. Yes, it's a very good point. Excellent. Thank you. All right, let's go on with Bhadra. Would you like to read, Bhadra? Thank you, Nandaji.
Dandot, everybody. Hare Krishna. Sarad Darsini, Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 18, 23 to 25. My dear King Parikshit, when Sridham, Rishabha, and the other members of the Lord Balram's party were victorious in these games, Krishna and his followers had to carry them. Defeated, the Supreme Lord Krishna carried Sridham, Bhadrasan carried Rishabha, and Pralamba carried Balaram, the son of Rohini. Considering Lord Krishna invincible, that foremost even Pralamba quickly carried Balaram far beyond the spot where he was supposed to put his passenger down. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Before it was described that the winners would be carried and the loser would carry their opponents. Now at Bandira, by the will of Krishna, his side lost in order that Pralamba would carry Balaram, and Balaram's side would ride on the loser's shoulders. That is described in 2 verses, text 23 and 24. The son of Rohini is mentioned because Pralamba thought that Balaram was completely different from Krishna. Thus he thought of killing Balaram because he was irritated by the affectionate relationship of the two. Why did Pralamba not try to kill Krishna, the main enemy of Kamsa? Pralamba considered him invincible. In order that Balaram could kill the demon, Krishna covered Balaram's power and made his power more prominent. Thus, Pralamba went on Krishna's side and carried Balaram.
It's confusing a little. Okay, before Nanda, did you want to respond to this? You got your hand up, sweetie.
I do have my hand up, but it's not on this one. It's on the previous one. So if you want to finish this before you take this comment, I don't know.
Okay, whatever you like, because it's all related.
Okay.
Since you're there.
Okay. So my question was, I don't get the I feel like that there should be some sort of correlation between what or who or the qualities that Pralambasura exhibits that we have, the anarthas that he exhibits that we have to overcome in his activities. But I don't get that. So is it like, how is Pralambasura manifesting lust for women? Or is he,
Maybe, well, that's just one of them. The significant one is the hypocrisy in this pastime. He's coming as a sweet cowherd boy, right? And he's so that's covered up. Where'd you go, Nanda? Oh, there you are. That was my understanding of it. Let's see what
Acharya popped his hand up, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, two little things. One is that if you look at Bhaktivinoda Thakur's list of the demons and the anarthas, sometimes you can draw like a sort of a logical extension and sort of see his reasoning, how he got to that conclusion that this demon represents a particular anartha, but not always. Sometimes there's no like internal logic that I can discern, at least.
Well,
yeah, I agree. I agree with that same thing. And it was described just in his sentence where he said, one who performs bhakti with these intentions, therefore they are anarthas, reveals what it is, but not necessarily, that's a much more internal connection that's not revealed by him. Why Pralambasura would be lust for women. That's not revealed.
So where
oh,
does that
But
come
the hypocrisy is.
Yeah, the hypocrisy, yeah. But where does it come from? Is it in the sense of it, is it Bhaktivinoda Thakur's realizations?
My understanding it is, as it is. He put
Okay,
it in Krishna Samhita and then
yeah.
made further comments in Chaitanya Shikshamrita. And that's the only place I've ever seen it. And he doesn't give references to any Puranas or other scripture.
I remember the very first few times that I heard those references about these demons represent this and that. It just like it didn't, I couldn't accept it, you know? Where does he get that? Where is that? You know what I mean? It took me a while for it to sink in that it was coming.
Bhaktivinoda is pretty high up there, so
Yeah,
so
well,
he's
yeah.
one of the people that, okay, he said it, I accept it, so I'll realize it later. And also the fact about lustful women might, all of these things make him a cheater. All of these things, if someone is a cheater, exhibiting that cheating propensity, I mean, this lust is also firing it. It's also fueling it. That's what my understanding of that.
And then one other unrelated comment, but when I was reading about the Bandira tree and how glorious it was, I thought of Madhavendra Puri, because Madhavendra Puri in Krishna Lila
Oh,
tree. And when previous to hearing about this Bandira tree, I thought, huh? How glorious, but then if it was something like, that explanation of the Bandira tree being so magnificent and this and that, and you think, oh, and then the that Bandira tree witnessed Krishna's pastimes and intimate pastimes of the gopis there. And so therefore, perhaps I'm not saying that Madhavendra Puri is particularly that tree, but it just gave me a conception of making a connection of how glorious a desire tree is in Vrindavan and then coming forth in the disciplic succession.
Padmalochan had a nice realization about that with Madhavendra Puri's verse, where he's saying, Ainanda Tunu, no, Ai Dina Dayadranatha He Matordanatha say, that as a desire tree, it was under his branches and in his kunjas that were manifested by his spiritual tree body, that Radha and Krishna would perform pastimes there. So he was witnessing their moods. And therefore, when he manifested in this world, he could help to establish that and plant the seed.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask everyone if we can go on. We have an appointment that we have to leave
Yeah, so
pretty
let's
soon
just read
to
these
go.
final.
Let's just, Thakur Maharaji, would you like to read?
Yeah, Krishna, yes.
Okay, but you have to put up the thing.
Okay, Sarasa Dashini, Shrimad Bhagavatam 10:18, 26 to 27. As the great demon carried Balaram, the Lord became as heavy as massive Mount Sumeru, and Pralamba had to slow down. He then resumed his actual form, an effulgent body that was covered with golden ornaments and that resembled a cloud flashing with lightning and carrying the moon. Balaram, who carries the plow weapon, saw the gigantic body of the demon as he moved swiftly in the sky, with his blazing eyes, fiery hair, terrible teeth reaching toward his scowling brows, and an amazing effulgence generated by his armlets, crown and earrings. The Lord seemed to become a little frightened. We shall now talk about the Thakur. The demon carried Pralamba high on his shoulder instead of on his back in order to breathe properly. Or he carried him high in the sky because he was a powerful demon. But still he lost his speed and then returned to his demon body. Unable to carry the weight of Balaram, Pralamba increased in size. His huge body was like a monsoon rain cloud. Balaram became slightly frightened at his appearance, and as part of his childhood pastimes, on seeing the big demon, he became worried about Krishna, since he should not kill Pralamba because he had disguised himself as a coward, or he feared for Krishna, knowing that there might be other demons disguised among his friends.
Read the next slide too, Prabhu.
Okay.
How'd you have to change the slide? I
Okay,
can't-
so-
I did change it and I skipped one.
32.
Okay, just read
Okay.
that.
Go.
Yeah. The court boys were most astonished to see how the powerful Balaram had killed the demon Pralamba, and they exclaimed, "Excellent, excellent." They offered Balaram profuse benedictions and then glorified him who deserves all glorification. Their minds overwhelmed with ecstatic love, they embraced him as if he had come back from the dead. The sinful Pralamba, having been killed, the demigods felt extremely happy, and they showered flower garlands upon Lord Balaram and praised the excellence of his deed. We shall not talk about the Thakur. Not only were the boys satisfied, the debaters were most blissful. Pralamba was sinful in causing violence to the world. He was completely killed. This means he attained liberation. The demons headed by Pralamba, Dinuka, Baka, Keshi, and his Arista, the wrestlers, Kuvalayapida, Kamsa, Kala Yavana, Juda, Kundraka, Shalva, Narakasura, Balvala, Dandavaka, the Seven Bulls, Shambara, Bidirat, and Rukmi, as well as those with bow in hand, glorious in fighting on the battlefield, such as the Kambojas, Matsyas, Kurus, Chinjayas, and Kaikayas, will attain Sayuja or Vaikuntha by the Lord or through his instruments, Balaram, Arjuna, Bhima, and others. Srimad 34 to 35. Wow. So,
Okay, so it looks like Krishna really cleaned up a lot of demons.
yes. And yes, and so I wonder too that Krishna is absolute. So all those demons, although they were demons, they got liberation. So that was most significant. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Krishna did
Yeah.
kill all these demons. They all got to a better place. They all got liberated. And
Yes.
that's great good fortune. One act that Krishna does supplies all auspiciousness for everyone.
We have one more slide.
One more slide. So, Tisha, you want to go for it? Last slide.
Haribol, Krishna book, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:17, verses.
Oh, you know what, Tisha? I noticed. Let me just ask to see if Faye, because she's on. Faye, do you want to read? It's the last slide. I don't know. She didn't
No.
last time.
Marjorie. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, sweetie.
We have two more slides. This one. and the
Okay,
next
well,
one.
the next one, the little one. Okay, Tisha, go on.
Okay, this one.
Krishna book, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:17, verse 29 through 32. Being stricken by the fist of Balaram, the demon fell down dead, just like a snake with a smashed head, and blood poured from his mouth. When the demon fell, he made a tremendous sound, and it sounded as if a great hill were falling upon being struck by a thunderbolt of King Indra. All the boys then rushed to the spot. Being astonished by the ghastly scene, they began to praise Balaram with the words, "Well done, well done." All of them began to embrace Balaram with great affection, thinking that he had returned from death, and they offered their blessings and congratulations. All the demigods in the heavenly planets became very satisfied and showered flowers on the transcendental body of Balaram, and they also offered their blessings and congratulations for his having killed the great demon Pralambasura.
Haribo.
Haribo! Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 18th chapter of Krishna, killing the demon Pralambasura.
Thank you. So the last slide, we'll just show that one thing real
did
quick.
that. We already did that.
We already did that. Please forgive me. Today we have an important engagement that I'm so sorry, but it's wonderful to be with all of you. And I hope that we become free from these anartas, represented by Pralambasura, cheating
Yes.
propensity, right? Oh, Hare Krishna, please accept my
Continued next week.
obeisances. Thank you all so much for your association.
I wish I would love you, incredible.